that up. Okay. So for today's Friday, it's beautiful outside, but nicest day of the year. So I spend as little time here as I possibly can, I think. But I gotta get some stuff done. So for today's daily take, I had a good question came in that was related to what the best things to do for in terms of home renos and such like that to get your house not only ready to sell but increase the value of your house the most. This is an interesting question to answer because there's not really a great answer for it. The reason I say that is because every house is so different, every position in the market is so different that there's not necessarily one size fits all for this type of question. What I mean by that, you can have a house that's positioned in kind of a lower end neighborhood where the expectations are different than a house that's maybe listed, that's maybe positioned in one of the more higher end neighborhoods where expectations are different, and what in one area is considered a deterrent to purchasing or a deterrent to being able to sell is not so in another neighborhood. An example of that is an ensuite bathroom. And I'm not saying that there's anywhere that this is an expectation, but at certain price points and in certain neighborhoods, houses with or without ensuite, I should say, have a hard time selling because that is what the buyer that is looking in those neighborhoods is expecting. In other places, they're not, and it's considered just a bonus when you have it. You can look at a lot of different things that from that lens or from that landscape. So that's kind of what I mean by that. The other thing that I would say is it's going to depend on where your house is at. Let's just use this kitchen or floors or something like that as an example. Let's go with kitchen. Now, if I walk into your kitchen and your kitchen is falling apart, regardless of what stage of the market you're in, that's a deterrent to being able to sell. Everybody that comes through is going to say, I have to do this kitchen. Not, I want to change the kitchen. I want to change the cupboards to a different color. I prefer white to brown or brown to white or whatever. Not a preference, something that's a deterrent that needs to be fixed. That's something where if you don't fix it, someone's just not going to buy your house. So in that situation, I would say that the return on investment is going to be pretty substantial because, frankly, if you don't do it, you're not going to be able to sell your house, well, I don't want to say at all, but for anywhere near the price that you're going to want for it. To try to answer the question as best I can after prefacing with what I've just said, some of the best return on investment items are actually some of the easiest and some of the things that you can actually do yourself, which is interesting. I've always found that painting, trim work, changing things like door handles, cupboard handles, things like that can go actually a long way towards freshening the house, giving it a good look, without spending a ton of money in the process. The problem with a lot of renovations, especially if you're getting someone else to do it, of course there's margin there, they're making money and as they should for doing good work. But the problem is that when you get into certain renovations that are costing more and more money, you have to get more and more money out in order to make those items worth doing. I don't find that a lot of them have that value associated with them. That's not to say that you can't go into a house that needs a ton of work and flip it and make it worth significantly more. My take on it is that a lot of things are not at or above or that far above a 100% return on investment, 1-to-1 dollar in versus dollar out position. And as a result, if you're doing it sheerly for the purpose of making money on sale, it may not be a great investment because as soon as you go over budget on the construction and the renovations, you could be in a position to actually lose money on that. Sure, your house is still going to go up in value, but potentially not by as much as you would have hoped. This is why I like things like painting, trim work, things like that can be easily, and what I mean by easily is rather inexpensively fixed and updated at a relatively small cost and actually yield a fairly high return for the homeowner. These are the things that I would hope to focus on first. A lot of big construction projects end up leading to more and more things that come up, or whether it be you adding things later that you didn't think about, or something unexpected that needs to be repaired before you can continue on with your project. And so if you're doing things just for that purpose, in terms of just to up the value for sale purposes, sometimes less is more. I will also say that when it comes to doing some projects like this, you have to take into consideration your personal enjoyment of your home. There's a lot of times where, yeah, you want to have that selling the house in mind and resale value in mind, but at the end of the day, this is still where you live, and you need to be able to enjoy and feel comfortable in the place that you live. And sometimes that personal satisfaction is as much important as your future selling value, and I think that should be taken into consideration. So if you want a new kitchen, and let's just say it's going to cost you $20,000, let's just say, for this kitchen, and I tell you that it's going to maybe up your value by $18,000, which is still good. That $2,000 is over the next year, 2, 3, 4, however long you're going to live in the house. That's how much you're paying for that enjoyment factor of having the new kitchen that you enjoy cooking your meals in and spending time in. So I think it's important to also see things from the fact that, or from the perspective that you also live in your house and you should enjoy your home. So that's kind of my best take on how I see that. Again, not a great answer in my opinion, because I just really kind of am beating around the bush, but every house is different, every situation is different, and sometimes there's not one answer for every question. So what I would say is, if this is something that's on your mind, it's probably a good idea to call your agent before you do these types of renovations to see if you're putting yourself in a good or a bad spot come resale. Because from my personal perspective, it's not that much fun to come in and say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I really like the work that you've done, but I wish that I kind of wish that you hadn't done it, because I can't get you all of that money back. Knowing ahead of time that is a possibility, and still going ahead with it, that's your choice. And I think that's something that you as a family, or you as a person, should be able to make. But being informed is probably the most important thing, and understanding that, hey, if I do this work, I may not get it all back. I think that's just important to know that it's not always, I put in a $20,000 kitchen, so my house is automatically worth $30,000 more. That's not necessarily the case. So anyway, I hope that this really helped. If you have a question that you want me to answer, please throw it in the comments or send me a message with it. I really appreciated this one, and it came from a past client, which is always great to hear from past clients. So I hope that this helps somebody out there, and that I'm not just doing this for nothing. So have a good one, and have a great weekend.